Hello, if you want to watch exclusive lemon content on What If Naruto, then go to my Boosty. The first link in the description here contains such hot stories for adults, such as What If Naruto was a daddy for Sarada, or Kushina and Mikoto vulgar Naruto mommies. Follow the link and enjoy. I'm waiting for you.
The village hidden in the foliage, aka Konoha, is one of the 5 great ninja villages, whose leader is Hokage. At the moment, the settlement reigns in peacetime, without wars and senseless deaths. The village has experienced many battles and suffered many losses. In order to avoid this, there are many organizations, including the Ninja Academy, the Kanahi Training Center for obtaining the title of Genin. Almost every lesson, whether it was practice or theory, began and ended with the same thing, namely an event 12 years ago. It was just in one of the classes that teacher Ruka was finishing the lesson with this particular story. The attack of the demon fox, known to everyone as Kubi, which happened in Konoha 12 years ago, caused many victims. Including the head of the village, the 4th Hokage Kanahi, died, and the hand wandered from side to side. Holding his hands behind his back, occasionally glancing at the guys, he saved the village by sacrificing his life to seal the spirit of the beast inside his newborn son, and he wanted to continue. But his gaze by inertia stopped on the sleeping disciple. Uzumaki-kun, there is no reaction to the teacher's call. The guy was lying peacefully on the desk, occasionally making soft grunts. Uzumaki-kun, if it's about you, you don't have to sleep. And the hand came up to the negligent student. Naruto, how did the oranges end? The guy screamed ironically, jumping up on a chair, which led to a fall along with a piece of furniture. Oh my god, Naruto, how much can I do? You didn't lift a finger to study, and today, by the way, there is a test in technology. Classmates of reincarnation. There was a simultaneous hum of discontent throughout the office. Perhaps this is the only thing that classmates could afford to do synchronously, since they were far from a friendly team. Everyone got in line, just to shoot back as soon as possible, and go about their business. Naruto was the first to rush as always, but Iruka didn't seem to notice him on purpose. The teacher was just going through the list. Iruka-shinsei, I want to show my transformation into the 3rd Hokage, the future shinobi screamed. It's perfect, honestly. Under such pressure, Iruka simply had no choice, and Vityunin tried not to go along with the tomboy. The rest of Naruto's peers considered him an upstart and a show-off, even though he studied on a par with, so to speak, the best student of Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke really was a gifted boy, but still us. To call him a genius, like an older brother, would be too much. Let's go back to patience and hands. He gave up, and let Naruto go ahead of the queue. Well, show me what you're capable of. Uzumaki jumped out of the crowd, immediately folded the seal, and turned into the 3rd one with a loud clap. It was, as the guy said, a perfect copy of the old man. In general, both Naruto and Iruka were pleased with the result, and, like everyone, the future shinobi was supposed to have a bandana with the sign of his native village. Naruto proudly rubbed his nose and grinned. Can you do better? And Sasuke asked Genin with a slight mockery. He only grunted with displeasure and pointedly turned away. Naruto stopped him, and the hand from further action, you can be free. The guy put his hands in his pockets and stepped aside to watch the others. Then we go through the list. Sakura, it's your turn, the teacher announced. A girl with pink hair came forward and started folding the seal. She's moving too slowly. What a snail, her technique won't last 5 minutes. Criticized the actions of the girl Naruto. He decided not to wait for the others to pass the test, so he quietly left the room. After leaving the academy building, he met his friend Shikamaru. Hey, Shika, let's take a look at the Kuriman evenings, Naruto called out to his friend on the move. To be honest, I'm too lazy, but if you pay, Nara grinned. And who else? Darabaya. Upon arrival at the diner, they ordered 2 portions of ramen. I don't understand, you eat only ramen and oranges. Why? After all, your uncle is an excellent cook. Shikamaru was perplexed. Yes, that's right. Demons can cook, but it's better not to know Naruto about the details. The guy just scratched his head and laughed stupidly. The guys quickly finished with the portions brought to them and went home. Before that, Naruto, of course, bought, in the mentioned oranges, to which Shikamaru just rolled his eyes. The friends said goodbye and dispersed. Naruto came home cheerful, which alerted his uncle. "What have you done again?" Kurama asked from the threshold. "Hey, uncle, you're home. I thought you'd be back late." "You didn't answer the question." The uncle looked very serious, although this seriousness did not happen when he smiled. "Okay, you don't have to tell me. It's probably something ridiculous, as always," Kurama laughed. This whole family idol wouldn't seem so cute and homely if Naruto knew the whole truth. Kurama did everything so that his so-called nephew would not find out the truth for as long as possible. But in fact, how long will everything remain a secret, only between the third and Kurama? "By the way, uncle, I became a genin," I told Naruto the good news. "Probably, the world has climbed ahead of everything," my uncle laughed. Naruto laughed after Kurama. "Since this is the case, we'll throw a party, and then I'll teach you one technique, after all. A nine-tailed Biju would make a great person and a good uncle. And even maybe, Kurama himself will tell Naruto the truth about him, his origin, and that he tried to kill baby Naruto." Explosion. Because of the clouds of smoke, a huge three-headed snake can be seen, which destroyed the wall surrounding Kanaka. The legendary Sannin is trying to stop her. A tuning exam is held in the arena. The battle between Uchiha Sasuke and Gaara from the village, hidden in the sand, continued. Sasuke manages to break through Gaara's absolute defense with the help of the Chidori technique. Most of the spectators at the stadium fall asleep. Ninjas of sand and sound are attacking the village of foliage. Gaara is taken away so that he can restore his chakra. Sasuke is chasing Gaara. Sakura, Shikamaru and Naruto go to help Sasuke. And Reikimaru, who has been hiding under the guise of Kayakage all this time, attacks Tsurutobi and resurrects the first and second Hokage with the help of a forbidden technique. The third Hokage tries to use the demonic seal technique, enclosing the soul in the body of the Shinigami. Against the first and second Hokage Orochimaru, Naruto starts a battle with Gaara. Gaara continues to transform into a demon. Naruto turns into a nine-tailed one and tries to wake Gaara up so that he suppresses Shukaku's will. Tsurutobi, at the cost of his life, puts a Shinigami seal on Orochimaru's hands, which then become practically incapacitated. Sannin manages to escape. Kurama woke up abruptly, covered in a cold sweat. He couldn't catch his breath, his throat was dry. He sat down on the edge of the bed, images and dreams randomly flashed in his head. What the hell? The tuning exam is not too early. Orochimaru also attacked the village. Having come to his senses, he shook his head. It can't be. Where did Jiraiya come from? Kurama was unable to answer all of these questions. The demon leaf could not control his thoughts, because it was too much. Improbably, many facts do not converge. According to Biju, this is all nonsense, but the third one needs to be told for his own safety. Because it does not benefit him in any way if Hiruzen dies. Only he knows the truth about who Kurama really is. The third Hokage wandered, side to side, holding his hands behind his back, occasionally looking out the window. "It's enough to flicker before your eyes," Hiruzen expressed his dissatisfaction with Kurama, and quite in a rude form. He was sitting opposite Hokage's chair. "Are you sure that's what happened?" The third one wouldn't let up. "What is the probability that this is just a dream?" "I have no idea." Kurama replied in the same spirit. "I haven't really figured it all out myself. Many facts don't converge in a dream. But also the tuning exam is just around the corner. Here it is, just the same, just around the corner." Rutobi interrupted the thought of the demon fox. "As for Jiraiya, have you thought about the fact that this scoundrel traveler can show up in the village whenever he wants? Hiruzen is not at all against Jiraiya's wandering around the world, but Sannin's manner of quietly sneaking into the village. And then to make a mess in, it was not to the taste of the third. Also true. Kurama sincerely wanted to hope that this was just a nightmare, but his fox instinct told him otherwise. "You know, Hiruzen, I'm sure of one thing for sure." The third one was curiously waiting for what Biju would say. "In what?" Kurama wondered for a second, whether it was worth continuing his thought. What if this still does not happen? Speak up, Kurama. Hokage interrupted his thoughts again. In any case, something will happen in the village. I feel it, Kurama continued. That's what I'm afraid of. After Kurama went to think over all the details of the dream, weigh all the facts, and find out the degree of probability that this will happen after all. Meanwhile, Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke, or the newly formed Team No 7, were waiting for their sensei, who was already decently late. All other teams have already successfully completed their first missions. Finally, Zenin decided to come to the meeting place with his students. Their teacher was Hatake Kakashi. He looked around the guys and fixed his gaze on the orange man. Naruto, is that you? Kakashi was surprised. Haven't seen you for a long time, Kakashi-san, the guy smiled. The rest of the team were puzzled. Is it possible that teachers and students can be familiar? Sakura wondered. That's true, but it just so happened that I repeatedly carried out missions with Kurama, and he introduced us. Zen explained briefly, and you have grown up. He has already turned to Naruto. Then Kakashi held a small training session, where everyone showed their skills and special abilities. Of course, neither Naruto nor Sasuke wanted to give in to each other, so a real competition was unleashed between them. All this brawl was stopped by Kakashi, after which the No 7 team still went on their first D-level mission. After 7 such missions, the No 7 team was entrusted with the protection of the bridge builder Tazan. However, it turned out that a lot of ninjas were hunting for him. The danger of the mission turned out to be much higher than expected. Kakashi, however, decides to continue the task. In turn, Kurama, without thinking twice, went home. During the night, he was able to sleep, so fatigue made itself felt. Again explosions, again a three-headed snake, again Sarutobi engages in battle with Orochimaru, and the summoned first and second Hokage. However, this time Kurama stands up for Sarutobi. Gaara is taken away from the stadium again. They are also being chased by Sasuke. Naruto, Sakura and Shikamaru follow him. With the joint efforts of Kurama and Hiruzi, they defeat the 2 Hokage and Orochimaru. Sannin retreats. Suddenly Kurama felt danger, but not for herself or even for Sarutobi. Naruto once again engages in battle with Gaara, who has already turned into Shukaku. Naruto summoned Gamabunta, the king of toads, after which he turns into Ninetales with his help. Naruto fails to wake up Gaara so that he suppresses the One Tail, as a result of which the fight drags on. Shukaku attacks Naruto and Gamabunta without the possibility of a counterattack. They lose their chakra concentration and the Ninetail disappears. Shukaku strikes the finishing blow. Kurama wakes up abruptly again, in the same way in a cold sweat. He sits down on the edge of the bed again. I really thought about Nat Yunina being next to Hiruzen during the exam, but he grabbed his head. Now what should I do? Everything would be fine if I hadn't raised Naruto for 12 years. I can't let him die. Damn it. Kurama stood up. This time he was in no hurry to tell all the third. To begin with, Kurama wanted to sort out his dreams himself. After the first dream, it was quite logical to plan not to depart from the third. However, this dream completely confused Kurama. While Kurama was thinking about this, the front door creaked open. It's Naruto back. Kurama drew attention to the exhausted look of his nephew. As the sea-level mission passed, Naruto trudged warily in the direction of his room. It turned out to be a level B mission, he said warily. But we managed. Thumbs up, and finally, a smile appeared on the guy's face. Kurama smiled back. The anxious hum of the villagers began to be heard from the street. Kurama leaned out of the window, and Naruto ran outside. What's up, Naruto? His uncle asked him. Oh, a bird from Hokage. Naruto meant by this a carrier pigeon. The bird landed on the guy's hand. He handed it to his uncle. It's strange, she's without a letter, Naruto noticed, handing the bird to Kurama. Kurama immediately understood what was going on, but he was not at all happy about it. This bird doesn't need a letter, just a little more, and the demon will really become a demon. This bird in itself says that it will announce the beginning of the Nat Yunin exam very soon. Kurama was absolutely furious. Natunina. That's cool. Naruto rejoiced. And what is Hokage thinking about? These thoughts did not give the demon fox peace of mind. Kurama broke into Hokage's residence. The demon fox was so overcome with anger that he simply tore the door off its hinges. What the hell, Hiruzen? Biju growled through his teeth. Natunin's exam continued in the same spirit. We talked about it. Kurama quickly walked up to the table and hit it, so much so that he broke it. Calm down, Kurama. Hiruzen tried to calm the raging demon, but he was calm at the same time. However, Hokage's calmness in this situation irritated Kurama even more. I couldn't do anything about it, Kayakage insisted. I'm sorry. Kurama still measured his anger, but only because it was useless to argue with Sarutobi. And besides, who in their right mind would listen to a nine-tailed demon in the guise of a human? Hiruzen was surprised by the demon's zeal to save the village, and Biju himself understood that it looked strange from the outside. That the one-stride demon leaf was so concerned about the fate of Hokage, and especially Naruto, the boy whom Kurama so eager to kill. Biju almost dropped his hands, and did not agree with Hokage, but a fragment of a dream suddenly popped up in his head, in which it was clearly shown that none other than Arakamaru was hiding under the guise of Kayakage. It is definitely impossible to conduct an exam now. He started the old Kurama song again. Metamorphoses in the behavior of the interlocutor began to strain Sarutobi. Then Kurama doubts, then again insists on canceling the exam. What's the matter with you, Kurama? You're not yourself. Hokage couldn't stand it and shouted at the demon fox. You still ask? Kurama snorted and continued. I have repeatedly talked about my dream. Wasn't it true that he was in no hurry to get to the point, hoping that Hokage himself would guess? You're talking about him again. And it seems, much to the demon's disappointment, Hokage was in no hurry to guess. Yes, and it's more serious than you think. Kurama no longer doubted that the dream would certainly come true, so he allowed himself to talk about it so confidently. Why do you think Kayakage insisted on taking the tuning exam? I don't understand what you're getting at, Kurama. You were wondering how Arakamaru got into the village. So, Kayakage is Arakamaru. With this statement, and quite audacious, Kurama completely stunned Hiruzen. Hokage just didn't know what to say to that. It would seem that the day had just begun, but the sun was shining as if it was about to set over the horizon. It feels like evening has already come. The cemetery, where many Kanahi shinobi are buried, was barely illuminated by the setting sun, because of the mountains on which the faces of four are carved. Hokage, near one of the not small graves, there was a girl, about the age of Naruto. Blonde, her long hair was braided in a high ponytail. Pale blue eyes reflected sadness. She looked with pain at the grave monument in front of which she was standing. She was holding a bunch of wildflowers in her hands. The girl's hair was blowing in the wind, and the petals were falling from the flowers because of the light wind. She squeezed the bouquet harder in her hands. Imagine, the tuning exam will be announced soon. The blonde spoke in an undertone. I think I'm ready for this test, the girl said. She squatted down, brushed the dirt that had accumulated overnight from the monument, and put the wildflowers, which were almost left without petals. If you are watching me from heaven, you will definitely see how I will become the great Kunaichi Kanahi. The girl smiled, passing her hand over the monument, and then, barely touching the inscription, she also held it. The inscription on the monument read, the head of the Yamanaka clan, a master of the mind transfer technique, a caring father, an excellent comrade, the eternal memory of Yamanaka Inoichi. Involuntarily, tears rolled down the girl's cheeks. She buried her face in her lap. Daddy, I miss you very much, Ina said through tears. Another one also died on a mission. Then Ina was only 6. The investigation lasted 2 years, but it never came to anything. The girl was worried for a long time, but after a while, she learned to live independently. She became the head of the Imonaka clan, and its only member. Calming down a little, the girl listened to the rustle of the grass. She realized that someone was approaching. Then she felt a hand on her shoulder. The girl raised her head and looked at the one who came. It turned out to be Sakura. They were good friends, got along well. Ina once helped Sakura cope with her complexes. "You're here again." Sakura was not at all surprised to see her friend in such a place. Ina often looked into the cemetery. She treasured her father very much. The pink-haired woman sat down next to her and smiled at her friend in order to cheer up the upset blonde. "I wonder how difficult the exam will be." Sakura just started to take Ina away from sad thoughts. "The first part is a written exam. Don't worry, we will pass." She didn't doubt her abilities. Sakura unexpectedly continued the blonde. "The interlocutor Ina looked up at her with you in the team." Ina did not finish as Sakura interrupted her. "Forget about Sasuke, he's mine." The girl even shouted a little. Ina just shook her head. "No, I don't need Sasuke." Haruna arched a puzzled eyebrow. "Really?" Ina didn't say anything. She buried her face in her lap again. "Kurama, why all of a sudden such an ardent desire to save the village?" Hiruzen finally broke the silence that had been hanging in the office for a long time. Kurama expected to hear such a question from the old man. "You know, when I came here after the fourth one tried to seal me in Naruto, I wouldn't have lifted a finger for the sake of the village." The demon fox began the answer. "However, now that I have been raising and taking care of Naruto for 12 years, I continued Biju. I just have to protect the village where he was born and grew up." The demon clenched his teeth and clenched his hands into fists. "I can't figure out what Naruto has to do with it," the old man asked. He remembered perfectly well that Kurama had mentioned his pupil only once in his dream. "Recently, I had a dream again, but your death has passed, because I intervened." "That's just what led to Naruto's death," Biju explained. It was clear from his face that he was worried. "When I killed Kushina and Minato, they defended their child to the last, even at the cost of their lives." Kurama showed his fox and grin. "Now I perfectly understand the feelings of these two. I just can't let Naruto die," finished Demon Fox. On the one hand, Sarutobi was stunned by the demon's words, and on the other, he was glad to hear it. Not every demon will be so worried about a person, but not in the case of Kurom. He knows perfectly well that he is guilty in front of Naruto, which is why, by educating him, he atones for his guilt. The sun has reached its zenith and is now baking with all its might. Because of the impossible stuffiness, it is difficult to breathe. Even a light gust of wind does not give coolness. There is practically no one on the streets of Kanahi. Everyone hid in their homes, but Kurama was in no hurry to get home. He was sitting in the courtyard, on a swing, where kids usually play. The demon fox kept thinking about his dream. A lot of questions accumulated in his head. What to do, how to save Naruto, how to save Sarutobi. But unfortunately he did not know the answers to these questions. Although Kurama is not a man, he still could not save both of them at once. Depressed by depressive thoughts, the demon got up from the swing. He was so deep in thought that he did not notice how the newly empty courtyard was quickly filled with children. All of them were running, laughing, crawling on the horizontal bars. The courtyard seemed to come to life. He was filled with cheerful children's laughter. To be honest, the whole picture did not cause Kurama anything but ridicule, because all these children and their parents were so cheerful and calm that it just annoyed the demons. Their naivety, their calmness surprised the Ninetales. No one had any idea what might happen in the near future. Kurama just hurried away from the yard and headed to the Kuruman evenings. Hakagi stared at one point and did not take his eyes off her. The elders said something to him, but he ignored everything. "Hiruzen, are you even listening to what we're saying to you?" I brought him back from Kaharu's thoughts. The third one returned from heaven to earth. I'm sorry, I was thinking," Hiruzen replied in the same semi-prostration. Hamura sighed hopelessly. "We talked about holding an exam for tuning in the near future," he recalled. Hakagi tensed slightly, realizing that he couldn't be. "What will be discussed next?" "Kaharu and I believe that the exam cannot be cancelled. After all, this is Kayakagi's request." Hamura continued, frowning. Sarutobi understood that he could not trust the elders and tell about Kurama's warnings. So he will only substitute the demon, the fox and himself, then the truth will be revealed, and this cannot be allowed in any way. Also, the third one knew perfectly well that these two did not trust Kurama, since he appeared in the village unexpectedly after the attack. "Stop soaring in the clouds, Hiruzen," Hammer shouted. Hiruzen sighed and got up from his seat. "Hamura, Kaharu, I'm sorry, but I'm not in the mood to talk about this today. I'll let you know as soon as I find out something." He was already on the threshold of the office. "Are you out of your mind, Sarutobi?" Hamura said with displeasure. "Finally understand that it is impossible to postpone this issue to a distant shelf," Kaharu added. Sarutobi stared at the two of them. "Maybe you can convince Kurama for me," he thought to himself. "As I understand it, I have no other choice." Hiruzen exhaled, showing his consent to the elders, "And now I will leave, with your permission." He emphasized the last phrase, raising the tone on it. Hakagi couldn't calm down. He believed that the elders were not telling something, and it was Kayakage. According to Kurama, Kayakage is a Rakimaru, but at first Hiruzen couldn't believe it. But now that the elders are so really insisting on holding this exam, Hakagi has drawn conclusions. Kurama, in turn, was so lost in his thoughts that he did not notice how the mountain of plates from under the ramen was increasing. Still, there is no doubt that they are related to Naruto. The owner of the eatery laughed, with which his assistant agreed. "Can I have a portion of ramen?" Out of nowhere, Kakasha appeared. The owner nodded and proceeded to fulfill the order. "How much does Naruto fit into you?" All my friends have asked this question. There was no response from the fox demon. "Hey, Kurama." I kept calling him Hataki, but the result was the same. Kanaha calls Kurama from Uzumaki, over. Zenin waved his hand in front of his face. Finally, the connection is restored, and the object is able to conduct a dialogue. Did something happen? "You're a rare guest in the evening," he came to his senses. A portion of ramen was ready and served to the customer. "Thank you," Kakashi said. "You know, I heard that the exam will still take place," Junin informed the interlocutor, and began to eat. "Really?" Kurama grinned, and knew that the elders would not back down from their own. He got up from his seat and looked around the whole mountain of plates. "Kakashi, how much do I owe you already?" he asked, clearly doubting his finances. "A lot," he answered briefly and clearly. This answer did not please the fox very much. "Clearly," Kurama said with a bit of regret in his voice. "Still, could you?" "Okay, but you'll soon be completely out of money." "You'll stay." Kakashi grinned. "Who would say, 'Thank you, my friend'?" Kurama headed towards the house. As always, on the way, he went into a fruit stand in order to buy his dear nephew a favorite citrus fruit. Then he met Shikaka, the father. They discussed the exam. Nara confirmed that the exam will take place very soon. After Kurum, I immediately went home. "Uncle, you're back." But what did Hakagi say about the exam? Naruto, inspired by this idea, was looking forward to what Kurama would say. The tired uncle exhaled. He was approved, the exam will take place. He answered shortly, "Hurrah." The young genius rejoiced, although his uncle was not happy about it at all. Kurama was annoyed that Hakage could not be convinced. The elders, besides the demon fox, as well as Hiruzen, believed that the elders had something to do with this attack. He wanted to know the truth, because there are too many unanswered questions. The conduct of the tuning exam on the territory of Kanahi was officially approved by the Hakage, his entourage, as well as the elders. All genins gathered at the Ninja Academy, because the first stage of the exam was held there, a written test. Team number 7 had just run up to the doors to the hall, where Kakashi was waiting for them. "Shinsei, why are you here?" Sakura was perplexed. "I'm just going to say a few words," Kakashi replied. "Everyone knows that the first stage of the exam is a written test. Your task is not only to write it well, but also to show that you are a team, no matter what happens," Zen finished. The guys tensed a little when they heard the word team. The relations of all three to each other were very unfriendly and even non-team. Rather, they considered it an obligation to achieve their goals. However, Kakashi pinned on them, just the same hope that they would be able to work as a team. Perhaps, if not for the constant rivalry between Naruto and Sasuke, it is quite possible that they would be able to work together. As well as a huge gap in the relationship between Naruto and Sakura. Naruto did not understand in any way for what merits Sakura was given high marks. Yes, she knew the whole theory by heart, but with her small supply of chakra, the technique only lasts for a few seconds. In turn, Sakura considered Naruto an upstart, like everyone who can only rely on the power of the QB sealed in him. The guys let out a doomed sigh, then gathered their thoughts and went into the hall. Shinobi from all countries gathered in one audience. The situation is tense, as if destroying. Everyone was drilling the 7th team with their eyes with a kind of psychological attack. Sakura was ready to give up first. She could barely stand on her feet. Her whole body was trembling treacherously. It seemed that a little more she would turn around and run away, but such thoughts were knocked down by standing in front of Nin. "Sakura, don't give up. Everything will be fine," her friend whispered to her, covering all this rabble with her back. Sakura regained consciousness, and Shikamaru and Choji, the remaining members of team number 10, came up to them. "Hey, Shika." As a mood, Shikamaru and Naruto shook hands with their signature greeting handshake. "Great, like himself," smiled Nara, looking out of fear not to wet yourself. He grinned. "Ahaha," Naruto burst out laughing. "The same to you," having calmed down, the blonde replied. "Choji, stop eating already," outraged Senna. "Don't you think you're already leaking?" She never had to finish. The girl's indignation during stopped Sheik, because everyone knows what will happen if you tell Choji that he is fat, eats a lot. Kiba also intervened in the conversation. "Haha, the loser Naruto still showed up." In his own way, Nuzik also laughed. "Kiba-kun, Naruto-kun's academic performance is much higher than yours." Hinata corrected him. They just came up with Shin. And Barami was always silent, which gave the impression of a certain arrogance. However, no matter how Kibi and Hinaki know that this is absolutely not the case. With the arrival of this team, a real farce began, and all the noise was created by one Kiba. He didn't take it out on Uzumaki for anything, calling him names in every possible way, although he answered quite calmly in response. "You will definitely fail the exam, you loser. Do you want to check it out, dog lover?" Hinata and Ina tried to separate them, calm Kiba down, and ask Naruto to stop mimicking him. Everyone else was concerned about the behavior of the ninja aliens. The shinobi were extremely aggressive. And this is understandable, because how much noise Kiba and Naruto create around themselves, and alone they are capable of a lot. Looking around, Shikamaru surreptitiously noticed one team. It was a team from a village hidden in the sands. From the outside, nothing special, the same geniuses, but something about them was alarming. Especially the look of a red-haired guy from nearby. A clear vessel behind the back. His gaze was cruel, devoid of emotion. It seemed that this guy could change his face at any second, and kill everyone present. It's probably not the first time he's passed this exam, Nara thought, which is unlikely with such a look. Shikamaru reconsidered his point of view, and decided to abandon the first thought. Indeed, if this guy from Song had participated in the exam earlier, he would have passed on the first attempt. Because he definitely does not pull on a weakling. Shika, Ina blocked his view of that strange guy. The guy immediately returned from his thoughts. "What are you thinking about?" "There's nothing special." The guy waved it off. The two calmed down. Shikamaru turned his gaze to the two main sources of noise. As you can see, and they really are quiet. It was much easier to calm down than Kiba, the blonde smiled. Naruto Kuna. Nara arched one eyebrow like a house. Since when is he Naruto-kun, and not a parody of Sasuke-kun? What? Did I call him that? Ina was perplexed. You're probably confusing me with Sakura. Really? Shikamaru lazily looked at the ceiling. Everything is with you, Ina, it's clear. The situation was getting more tense by the minute. All the genins were in anticipation that they were about to announce the start of the exam. Waiting is already a kind of torture, which many cannot stand. During this time, About a quarter of all genins have already left the audience. The rest were waiting for their fate. Kakashi left the academy building with a light heart. On the porch, he met Kurama wandering back and forth. Kyuubi had all the emotions on his face. Oh, if he had known earlier that he would be so worried about this boy, he would have just died of laughter. Don't worry, Naruto can handle it. Hatake immediately read his thoughts like an open book. Kurama stopped, looked at Zenina. I can't talk about it so calmly. The demon continued to walk from side to side. Kakashi chuckled at Kurama's behavior. In a sense, Kurama himself is funny. He imagined what kind of picture Kakashi saw in front of him soon across the audience. There was a loud bang. Everyone turned to the source of the noise. What the? Everyone present was at a loss. Several shinobi appeared from behind a cloud of smoke. At the head was a man about 30 years old. His face is covered with numerous scars. I am your examiner Morina Ibiki, he introduced himself. The written test took place in a very tense atmosphere. Some could not withstand the strictest conditions, while others could not restrain themselves because of the constant surveillance of the examiner's assistants. There are only a few left until the end of the exam. At the end of the time allotted for the test, Ibiki admitted that the test was a simple test, but not at all for knowledge of theory, but for the ability to work in a team. He also said that all the genins who remained in the audience successfully passed the first stage. Future Tunins were in no hurry to rejoice. As soon as Ibiki finished speaking, Ankami Taroshi, the examiner of the next stage, appeared in front of the genins. The second stage of this exam will take place in exactly 2 months at the same time, she shouted to the entire audience. There was a commotion among the genins. 2 months so long, the long wait did not please the guys. Calm down, Tsunade calmed everyone down. This is not the time for you to fool around. You have to prepare very seriously. The woman spoke very seriously, which really calmed the raging crowd of genins. I will be waiting for you in 2 months at the training area number 44. A month later, Hokage's office. Hiruzen was sitting at his desk, nervously tapping his fingers on it. It seemed that the old man would have a nervous tick a little more. The door to the office opened softly and with a creak. Kurama appeared on the threshold, which was called by Hiruzen. Kyuubi was clearly annoyed at not knowing what Hokage would tell him. Sarutobi nodded and pointed to the chair in front of the demon fox. Kurama sat down in the indicated chair and was ready to listen. Hiruzen frowned. I am informing you, Kurama, that Gyre has appeared in the village. Hokage confronted Kyuubi with a fact. You know that he knows about the Uzumaki clan, and that there is no shinobi named Kurama in it. Kyuubi was just silent. Asania's news shocked him. You're in danger, Kurama, Sarutobi continued. If Jiraiya is here, then, Hiruzen, you also understand what this threatens. The village is in great danger, not only me, but also you and Naruto. Kurama got up from his seat, resting his palms on the table. Hiruzen nodded affirmatively. Something has to be done about it. The demon fox immediately left Hokage's office. Stop, Kurama. Sarutobi shouted after him. Except that Kyuubi was already far away. Kakashi wandered the streets of Kanahi and Legs. They brought him to the Oshira Kiraman. Is he really that hungry? No, that's not why. In the diner, among the customers, he saw a familiar silhouette. Gyre called out to Kakashi in surprise. He came closer. It really turned out to be the legendary San. When you managed to return, he sat down next to Jiraiya. Recently, Jiraiya replied shortly, finishing his ramen. How's Naruto doing? Settled in. Suddenly he asked. Kakashi was very surprised that the first thing Jiraiya asked about Naruto. Naruto is doing great. Now all genins are going through the second stage of cheating on tuning, Zen replied. Wow. So, Naruto took up the mind. Ahahaha, Sanin loudly put the plate on the table and laughed. I don't understand why Naruto would come to his senses. He's a very gifted guy, restless true, but what can I do? Kakashi continued. Kurama takes good care of him. Jiraiya immediately stopped his bubbling laughter. Who? Kurama. Hatake repeated. Naruto's own uncle seems to be from the Uzumaki clan, he added. Sanin immediately became thoughtful. Kurama, from the Uzumaki clan. Kushina didn't say anything. Jiraiya got up, left the money for the ramen on the counter, and hurried out of the Kuramen room. Kakashi followed him. What happened, Jair? As long as I can remember, Kushina has never said that she has relatives. In addition, the Uzumaki clan disappeared without a trace. Everyone went to different villages. Even if Kushina had a brother, he would hardly have known that he had a nephew in Kanaka. Jiraiya reasoned very hastily and muttered something unintelligible, so Kakashi caught only the main point. I do not know a shinobi from the Uzumaki clan named Kurama, especially one who called himself Brother Kushin, Sanin finished. Zenon's eyes widened in surprise. What do you mean by that? Of course, Kakashi perfectly understood what Jair was leading to, but he just couldn't believe it. During all this time, they became good friends with Kurama, gathered with a small team for various tasks. In addition, Kurama has accumulated a large debt, which he will obviously not pay soon. However, Zenon simply couldn't believe that Kurama might not be who he claims to be. We need to inform the third one. Jiraiya headed to Hokage's residence. Kakashi followed him to confirm his suspicions. It hasn't been that long, but is already exhausted on Naruto. He almost forgot the last time he trained with his uncle. Kurama, on the contrary, remembered everything perfectly and was not even a bit tired. He was trying to make it clear to his nephew that complex techniques are better to store up rather than open all the cards at once. But Naruto did everything with precision, but on the contrary, whether Sanin would take it into his head to come here. Kurama pondered. Let's take a break, uncle. Naruto spoke out of breath, interrupting his uncle's thoughts. Kurama grinned. Tired. And what are you going to do in the exam? This, of course, was a rhetorical question. This training is not for strength, but for endurance. Understand, after all, the second stage will take place in the training area number 44. Or else this place is called the Forest of Death. Naruto sarcastically mimicked his uncle, which made him frown. Well, if you don't want it in a good way, we'll do it in a different way. He let out an exasperated sigh. So, until the evening, you will repeat the same simple techniques. You said how you cut off the chicken. What, uncle? Naruto tried to object. The order is as follows: transformation, shadow cloning, substitution of bodies, and so on in a circle until the evening. Ignoring his nephew's objection, he added a kubi and left. Naruto had no choice but to proceed with the task of his uncle. Jiro entered Hokage's office without knocking. He was surprised at such impudence on the part of a former student. What happened, Jair wondered Hokage. Who is this Kurama? Where is he now? Sanin answered the question with a question. Sarutobi shifted his gaze to Kakashi. He just shrugged. Hokage sat down at the table, clutching his head. To tell them, I don't think Jiraiya will accept everything as it is. He's Naruto's godfather after all, Hokage reflected. Wait a bit, Jiraiya will explain everything now. Hiruzen nodded to Kakashi, and he went after Kurama. Jiraiya only clenched his fists. Kurama sauntered into Hokage's office, followed by Kakashi. He looked around. Hokage was sitting at the table, thinking about something. Jiraiya was sitting opposite him, frowning. So I was right, Jiraiya didn't show up himself, but invited through an intermediary. Have to be careful with him, Kurama thought, sitting down opposite Sanin. He looked back at Kurama. Sanin, without hesitation, began to ask the questions that interested him. Who are you? Kurama immediately tensed up. Uzumaki Kurama. Also, Kyubi answered without hesitation. I didn't ask for a name. Jiraiya spoke rather rudely. Biju frowned. What do you mean by that? Kurama was not happy with this alignment of events. Sanin can find out everything if he continues to ask leading questions. Another aspect is the presence of Kakashi. Zenon was also very interested. Don't put so much pressure on Kurama, Jair, Hokage tried to calm Sanin down. Jiraiya seemed to have listened to Hokage's words, but he had a lot of questions. At that moment, Naruto burst into the room, as always, without knocking. You're supposed to be in training. Kurama jumped up from his chair. If everything was bad before, now it's even worse. I'm sorry, uncle, but I'm just sick of these techniques. Naruto scratched the back of his head, looking away. Wow, Naruto, you've grown so much. Jiraiya also got up from his chair and walked over to his godson. Naruto lowered his gaze. Who are you? Genin tilted his head to the side, looking closely at Sannin. What do you mean, who else are you? Jiraiya backed away. I didn't recognize it at all. Naruto scratched the back of his head, as if this would make him remember something. Although he himself does not know what exactly he should remember. Sannin is completely panicked. Oh, right. Still, apparently, some kind of thought came. Dyer looked at him, with the hope that Naruto still remembers him. You are one of the legendary Sannins of Kanahi, Dyer. The idea is correct, but not at all suitable for the situation. Naruto, is your godfather, gave out Hokage. Oh, so it's him my dad told me to stay away from. What? Sannin's eyes widened in surprise. Who told you that? Naruto, without thinking, pointed at Hiruzen. That's how you treat your students, Hiruzen. Jiraiya was beside himself with anger. And what about me? That's what Minato said, Hokage clarified, smiling. Drizzt, still understanding this gesture, looked at the ceiling. Minato, and this is your gratitude as a student teacher. That asshole. Sannin smiled too. After Naruto's arrival, everyone apparently forgot why they came, even Kurama completely relaxed. Formzira settled down with his questions. The day was nearing evening. The meeting ended, and everyone began to go home. Kurama also went home in the hope that at least this time, he would get enough sleep. But Jiraiya, I was in no hurry to get home. Naruto, he called out to his godson, when he was about to follow his uncle. The guy looked around for a couple of words. He stepped aside. Uzumaki approached Sannin. Tell me about your uncle, about his origin especially. Naruto was surprised by such a sudden change on the part of his godfather. It seems that he again started the same hurdy-gurdy, with which he came to the third. Uncle Kurama, my mom's brother, he found me in the village when he was patrolling the neighborhood after the Kubi attack. Naruto answered Sannin's question. An uncle from the village, hidden in the fog, came to us as soon as he found out that I was Uzumaki. Kubi's attack, an accident or a pattern, it would be necessary to talk to Mizukage, Jiraiya thought. But I think I'll go, Naruto said, indicating that his uncle was already waiting for him. Sannin nodded his head and also went to his room. He was in no way bothered by the information that Naruto had provided him. Peaceful Kanaka. People carelessly carry out their daily chores. Life goes on as usual. On the threshold of the entrance to the village, there is a Kurama in full gear for a long task. Flashbacks of Kurama talking to Jiraiya flash by. Kubi takes a step over the threshold, and the next ones gradually disappear behind the walls of the village. All events are repeated over and over again. Explosions, three-headed snake Arakimaru, hiding under the identity of Kazekage. Once again, Sarutobi engages in battle with Arakimaru and the summoned first and second Hokage. Only instead of Kurama, Jiraiya comes to the aid of the third. Gaara is taken away from the stadium again. They are also being chased by Sasuke. Naruto, Sakura and Shikamaru follow him. The third Hig uses the demonic seal technique, enclosing the soul in the body of the Shinigami, against the first and second Hig and Arakimaru. Meanwhile, as Dira distracts all three of them so that they do not interfere with Sarutobi, Naruto begins the battle with Gaara again. Gaara continues to transform into a demon. Naruto turns into a nine-tailed creature and tries to wake Gaara so that he suppresses the will of Shukaku. Sarutobi puts the Shinigami seal on Arakimaru's hands at the cost of his life, who then becomes practically incapacitated. Arakimaru escapes. He tries to say something with the last of his strength, looking, after which he rushes headlong to the Battle of Jinchuriki. Naruto manages to pull Gaara out of Shukaku, after which both Biju disappear. However, Naruto is surrounded by Temari and Kankura. It is unclear for what reason they are attacking Uzumaki. Jiraiya does not have time to save her godson. Kurama wakes up in the middle of the night for the umpteenth time, because of a dream that changes all the time, depending on the plan already devised by Kubi. Bijuni was once visited by the idea of giving up sleep for a while. However, fatigue spoke in him, and the fox demon instantly plunged into the realm of dreams. As it happened now, he is exhausted, has already gone to sleep with his head falling back on the pillow. I woke up again only in the morning, with a characteristic lack of sleep. There were bags under the eyes and frequent irritability. Kyubi didn't notice all this. He visited the Hokage residence again, because only the old man could tell about his dreams and warnings. Of course, the old man listened to everything that Kurama told, both new and old. Kurama feared that he was outside the village at the time of the attack, when both the old man and Naruto died. Well, Kurama, it looks like you are taking these dreams too close, but still, for your peace of mind, I will suspend you from all tasks outside the village for the exam. Hokage tried to calm the demon. Quite a bit, but it calmed Kyubi down better than nothing. Kurama agreed to this condition. I think I'll go, since everything has been decided. The demon fox got up from his chair and went to the exit. Thank you, Hiruzen. Kurama returned home in a more or less elated mood and wanted to continue training with his nephew. But Naruto was already training with Jiraiya in the backyard of his house. Jiraiya showed his godson the unfinished technique of Minato Rasengan. Naturally, the curious Naruto wanted to learn this technique, which is what he was trying to do at the moment. Jiraiya, are you sure he can handle her? The technique is incomplete. Kurama was worried. Of course, Jiraiya, apparently, was also in a good mood. Naruto is the only one who can complete this technique, he added in conclusion. He gave Naruto a signal that it was time to finish for today. He obediently stopped training and went into the house. Jiraiya also hurried to leave the Kuram's habitat. For all genins, another month passed unnoticed, and also imperceptibly the time came for the second stage of the exam. All the genins gathered where the examiner said at the training area number 44. She was already there and made sure that all genins, without exception, arrived at the appointed time. Examiner Anka explains the rules of the second test of the exam. Grab the opponent's scroll in the Forest of Death, and get to the tower in the middle of the forest. A lot of troubles come to Team No 7 within the forest, but despite this, the guys manage to steal a scroll from the opposing team. However, an even greater danger falls on them. They are attacked by Orochimaru, disguised as a student participating in the exam. He burns the scroll that the guys found. Sannin puts a cursed seal on the nipple. Anka, the test leader, tries to stop Orochimaru, but he manages to escape. The troubles of the guys did not end there. Meanwhile, Guy's team decided to make a small halt to think over a plan of action. Niji was sitting on the root of a tree and twirling a kunai in his hand. Tenten was leaning on a tree and waiting for Hyuga to say. Ollie was just waiting, squatting and waiting. Now many teams are resting. Still twisting the kunai, it wasn't G who started. Let's take advantage of this. He shifted his gaze to the guys. Let's split up and look around the neighborhood. But regardless of whether you meet others or not, he got up from his seat. We're all coming back here. The guy finished by sticking a kunai into the ground, which was like a landmark of a meeting place for the three of them. The guys dispersed. At this time, Sakura found a small shelter under a tree among the huge roots, and Naruto and Sasuke are unconscious. Sakura tried to help them. No matter what happens, I have to protect them. She tried to summon all her willpower. Kakashi-sensei always said that team ties are first of all. The girl recalled the words of the teacher. Since when has the team spirit awakened in her? You will become a loser if you fail the mission, but if you fail the team, you will be worse than a loser who failed the mission. That's what he said. Haruna kept quoting until she fell asleep from overwork. While it was more or less quiet in the forest, Anka was thinking about how to inform Hakage Orochimaru. On top of everything else, she was found by the late Anbu. The 7th team was watched by people sent by Orochimaru, 3 ninja sound engineers. Will attack at dawn. The other 3 were apparently told by their leader. His head was bandaged, one eye was closed, bandanas with the emblem of the village of Sound. They hid so they wouldn't be spotted. It was getting light. The first rays of the sun broke through and illuminated the darkness of the forest. Sakura woke up from a dream, abruptly opening her eyes. She abruptly turned to Naruto and Sasuke, who were still unconscious. So it was a dream. She looked at them with regret. Suddenly, hearing a rustle behind her, the girl grabs the kunai. What's going on? Taking a weapon with both hands, she cannot cope with her fear. Her hands are shaking, and her heart was ready to run into her heels. She slowly turned around, but the source of the noise was only a small squirrel. Haruna waves him off so that he doesn't give away their location. Sound engineers notice its action. Do you think she noticed the explosive seal? One of the sound engineers asked in a whisper. It is unlikely, however, there is no point in sitting anymore, it's time, the leader answers. Rock Lee is looking around the neighborhood at this time, as suggested by Niji. He notices the squirrel and the seal on it. After freeing the rodent, he lets it go. Don't get caught up in such dangerous stuff anymore, buddy. While patrolling Niji, he stumbles upon Inoshika Cho's team, who do nothing but hide. Stop playing hide and seek, come out. Meanwhile, the sound engineers began to act. Sakura, who had just woken up, continued to struggle with the rest of the dream and think about what to do next. Don't sleep, she screamed, patting her face. Never mind, you'll sleep it off soon. A voice was heard behind him. Wake up from the horse. The girl immediately turned around. She grabbed the kunai again. Are you crazy? The girl screamed. I know there's an Arakimaru behind you. What does he want? The sound engineers were surprised by this outcome of events, but they did not concede their own. Now we definitely can't let you go alive. The leader grinned. Zack. Understood, Dosu. The guy climbed down from the tree he had just been sitting on. I'm going to kill you. And I'm going to kill this Sasuke, too. He turned to Sakura with a kind of murderous lust in his eyes. All three of them launched a simultaneous attack, but it would have been fine if they hadn't fallen into Sakura's trap. A huge log fell on them, but they managed to dodge and continue the attack on the girl. It would seem that she has nowhere to go and can only accept, but from nowhere a hurricane sweeps by, which sweeps away the sound engineers. It's not good to attack one with a bunch of small ones. Taking a fighting stance, Lee spoke out. Hokage gets the news about Arakimaru, and he immediately calls Kurama. Nemeshikaya, Hyubi comes to the office. Hiruzen explains the situation. And the demon fox almost breaks down to go to the aid of the guys in trouble, but Sarutobi stops him. Settle down, Kurama, they will cope. Will they cope? They're both unconscious. Kurama was ready to take off. I'm sorry. Hiruzen hit Kyubi, and he lost consciousness. The fact that you go to save them, they will not become stronger. Hokage continued to speak as if to himself. You went too far with the guardianship of Naruto, you're not even human. Continuing his monologue, Hokage did not notice Jiraiya standing outside the door. He heard every word Sarutobi said, which greatly disturbed and discouraged him. Not a man, then what is he? Sannin hurried away so that Hiruzen would not notice him. The land of water. A village hidden in the fog, aka Kiri. Jira walked slowly towards the Mizukage residence. The weather was clearly on Sannin's side. There are no clouds in the sky, it's fog. The fog cleared. The village is surprisingly quiet. The hermit approached the residence building. There was no one in the neighborhood. Jiraiya was wary, but went into the building. When he entered Mizukage's office, he also found no one. Where did everyone go? It's like they're extinct. Sannin scratched the back of his head. However, he took advantage of the moment and decided to make a small mess among the documents in order to find some information. That Kurama Uzumaki really lived in Kiri. The tuning exam was still going on. Kurama was very annoyed because Hokage forbade him to interfere. Morzenin did not receive any news about what was happening in the Forest of Death. Sakura and the Rockies who found her are fighting against the attacking ninjas of the Sound Settlement. Lee is almost unable to fight anymore. Team number 10 is watching all this from behind cover. Naruto and Sasuke are unconscious, Rock Lee is unable to fight, Sakura is in big trouble. Summed up Shikamaru, we need to help, don't you think, Ina? The girl, as if struck by lightning, watched what was happening. Without hearing the interlocutor, Sakura throws Kuna and shurikens with all her might, but this does not work. And Zaku changes the direction of the weapon with a gust of wind. To immobilize Sakura, Kin grabs her by the hair. Haruna understands how useless and helpless she is. Zaku was going to kill Sasuke in front of the girl. Out of desperation, she grabs the kunai. Useless? Kin interrupts Sakura's actions. There's nothing you can do about it. Kin tried to suppress any hope that lurked in Sakura. But Haruna missed the weakness. She wasn't going to attack her. With one deft movement, Sakura cut off her hair, which was held tightly by Kin. Kin is surprised, Ina couldn't believe her eyes. Sakura cut off her long hair, and now her hairstyle doesn't look like anything. The bandage came off his head. All this time, I was just a hindrance in the team. The girl began to wail. Sasuke and Naruto always fought, managing to protect me. Sakura recalled the events with the mission in the Land of Waves. I want to be like you. Haruna took a fighting stance. Now it's my turn to protect you. The team of Kiba, Hinata and Shin continued on their way. They had successfully completed this task and were already heading for the tower in the middle of the forest. Suddenly, Kiba felt a strange smell and stopped. There seems to be someone there. The guy sniffed. Hinata, look over there, about a kilometer away. Kiba pointed to his right. Solid, impenetrable wilds of the forest, but not for Hayab. Now the girl folded the seal, holding her hands in front of her face. Bikugan. Bikugan is a special structure of the eyes. They are somewhat larger than ordinary ones, while the pupil and iris of the eye are almost indistinguishable from each other, and both have a milky white color. By activating this technique, Hinata's hidden pupil became more noticeable, and small cracks appeared on the surface of the iris. At the same time, the veins leading to each of the eyes swelled and became visible. As Kiba said, there was someone a kilometer away from them. You're right, Kiba, there's someone there, Hinata was surprised. Shina listened to the ground. Looks like there are 6 of them. That's great, let's go take a look, inspired in music. It's too dangerous, Kiba-ku, Hinata tried to dissuade him. I completely agree with her. Come on. Without listening to his teammates, Kiba went to the side where the 2 teams were discovered. The guys had no choice but to follow him. When they got close enough, they hid so that they could see and hear what was happening, but at the same time, so that they would not be noticed. Akamaru sensed something was wrong. The dog shivered and whined softly. What is Akamaru? Kiba was surprised. The dog crawled up to the owner and hid under his jacket, while continuing to whine. The guys shifted their gazes to the 2 colliding teams. They were teams from the village of Rain and teams from the village of Sand. They started the battle. The Rain village ninjas were the first to attack. Tossing his umbrellas up, he used the prickly rain technique. The needles from the umbrellas flew straight at the target, but not a single needle hit the Gaara. He used his absolute protection. This can't be happening. The Rain ninja was surprised. And that's all, Gaara's opponent couldn't stand it and ran at him, folding some kind of seal. Gaara also took up printing. He folded his hands so as to form a triangle, both index fingers bent inside the triangle. Behind him, all the sand that had been his protection recently rose into the air. Gaara abruptly brought his left hand forward and left his right hand in front of his face. A sand coffin, he said. The sand, controlled by Gaara, completely enveloped the enemy. He tried to pull away, but he couldn't move a finger. His teammates couldn't move either because they were shocked. Kiba, Hinata and Shina were also completely numb from what they saw. Sand on the ground, sand in the air, it obeys my will. With a single movement of his hand, Gaara forced the sand coffin to rise. The sand mass squeezed the victim harder and harder. A sandy grave, he finished, and for a second, the sand squeezed the enemy, blood poured out to the side. Gaara covered himself with one of the zanks. He turned his attention to the remaining two guys. "Please have mercy," one begged. "Here's our scroll, you can take it, just let us go," the second scroll held out. But Gaara was no longer listening to them. He did the same thing he did to their leader. "Let's get out of here, if they notice us, we're dead," Kiba finally said. The guys hurried away. Kankura picked up the scroll, and their team hurried to the tower. Sakura held on as best she could, however, and this is not enough to restrain the sound engineers. She barely had enough strength to get up. Soon, team number 10 came to her aid. They also managed to hold off the enemies for a while. Dosu restrained Shikamaru with shadow impersonation. Ina moved her consciousness to Kin. Thanks to this, she restrained her. Chuji was fighting with Zeku. On top of everything else, his team Miji and Tenten came to the aid of Klee. However, this is not all. Sakura turned to Naruto and Sasuke. "Sasuke-kun, you've come to your senses." Haruna was delighted. Uchiha did not stand on ceremony, wasting time on chatter. Using the power of the cursed seal, he forced the ninja of sound to flee, leaving them his scroll. Despite all the other difficulties, team number 7 gets the last scroll, and thus proceeds to the next round. Jair rummaged through the entire office in search of information. He specifically knew his goal, so he hurried as best he could. Sanin, like a man possessed, kept looking around and checking to see if anyone was coming. Although, what is it about, if the village is half empty? Finally, Anin found information about the village. "Damn, I looked into Mizukagi's desk 10 times, he swore. Jira, I sat down on the floor and began to study the documents carefully, but to his disappointment, I did not find anything interesting. A person like Kurama Uzumaki is really listed as a Zenin of the Mist. Moreover, he is considered a local hero, and the residents were not thrilled to learn that he had moved to another village. It turns out that I was wrong to accuse him," Sanin reflected. But then what do Hakagi's words mean? He got up from the floor and, folding the documents, hid them in his bag. "You went too far with Naruto's guardianship. You're not even a human being," Sanin recalled. These words kept popping up in his head over and over again, which gave him no peace. The second stage of the tuning exam has finally come to an end. Out of 78 people, 20 remained. This arrangement did not suit Anka, because she was going to weed out at least half. All teams that have passed the second stage are beginners recommended by their teachers. The future tuners were faced by teachers, examiners of Hokage. "Congratulations." Anka, the examiner, began, clearly dissatisfied with the fact that so many guys passed the second stage. "Now I will explain to you the rules of the third and last stage," she warned. The genins kept looking around, assessing each other's abilities by eye. The teachers, in turn, carefully watched the reaction of the students. "So, the rules of the third stage are that, first of all, I would like to say something to the guys." Interrupting the examiner's speech, Hokage stepped forward. Hokage looked around at the puzzled faces of the students. Probably, they were waiting for something like an encouraging speech, saying that you are all well done, and the like. But Hiruzen was forced to disappoint them. "I think everyone knows perfectly well why there is one tuning exam between all countries." Hokage asked a rhetorical question. The union of countries, the increase in the level of shinobi, are all just beautiful words. And don't let them mislead you. This time, the genins were completely taken aback. This exam replaces the war between the allies in order to avoid empty bloodshed in the past, and this method was chosen. Sarutobi finished his history lesson, but he fell silent, only waiting for questions from the students. "What kind of war? Aren't we here to become tuners?" Naruto shouted first. "Yes, it is," Hokage continued. "Examiners decide who is worthy to wear the title of Tunin, but this medal has a downside. Shinobi of every country risk their lives for the honor of the motherland. Your battles will be watched by leaders of other countries and influential people. The honor of the motherland, the battles, why should we take risks?" Ina also decided not to remain silent, because her own life is at stake, and she, as the only representative of her clan, wants to prove a lot. Many leaders are our clients. A country that has proven its strength will receive more orders, and, conversely, a weak one will lose customers. This is a signal to potential enemies and allies that our village is strong, a kind of political message. In response to all Hakagi's words, there is only silence. Hakagi finished his speech. He no longer argued to the students about the meaning of the exam. The old man wanted to finish with an encouraging parting word, but his speech was interrupted. What is the strength of a country? Kakashi approached Hakage, addressing the guys. The strength of a country is the strength of a village, he asked, and he answered himself, as if he was not addressing the students. The power of the village is the power of shinobi, Zen continued his monologue. And the true power of shinobi is born in deadly battles. What am I driving at? In the exam, you can see the strength of other countries, as well as show your own. Hiruzen caught Zenon's thought. Balance is achieved at the cost of life, such is friendship in the shinobi world. The old man grinned at his own words. This is not just an exam, this is a deadly battle, but your dreams and the honor of your homeland are at stake. Finally, he finished. Now let's go directly to the third stage. The referee Hayate Gika will tell you about it. A skinny kid appeared in front of the guys, a hoarse voice, painful pallor of the skin, bags under the eyes. It's amazing how he still stands on his feet. Good afternoon, my name is Hayate, he reintroduced himself, coughing almost after every word. So, before we hold the third stage, I think we will hold a qualifying round, in which it will be decided who will participate next. Jira, I didn't find anything else in Mizakagi's office, so I decided to explore the village and find out what was going on here. Looking around the neighborhood, he came across a diner something like an Charaku in Kanaha. To Sanen's surprise, someone was there. Jira sat down behind the counter. Excuse me, dear, Jira called out to the owner of the diner. The old man, apparently, did not hear well, because he did not pay attention to the guests. He turned to the counter, and when he saw Jiraiya, he was very scared, clutching his heart. Oh gods! After all, it is necessary to warn that someone is here. The old man shouted. Sledge hurried. It seemed to him that he had announced his presence. The old man caught a glimpse of another symbol on the shield. So you're not from around here, to which I just nodded to Jira. You will be able to answer me a couple of questions that you can answer. For a couple of questions, Jira repeated the question, but louder and clearer. Oh, go ahead. Do you know if a Nobi named Kurama lived in Kirishi? Sanin asked first of all. How? Kurama? The old man asked again. No, I don't remember. He thought about it, obviously trying to remember. I know everyone from the village, but I don't remember Kurama. After some thought, he shook his head, as a sign that he had not remembered. Why then is Kurama listed as the shinobi of the village of Kiri? Jiraiya handed over the piece of paper that he had found in Mizakagi's office to the old man. The old man carefully scanned the contents of the document. Yes, I see, it does indicate here that someone named Kurama lived in Kiri. He ran his eyes over the text several times. Jiraiya took note of the old man's words. He, of course, understood that the old man's words could not pass for evidence. If Hiruzen is involved in Kurama's secret, then he prepared the documents well, probably even talked to Mizukagi. But miscalculated with the residents. Speaking of which, where have all the residents gone? Sanin remembered. The old man looked up, supervising. I have no idea. He shrugged his shoulders. It seems that there is some kind of holiday or something going on nearby. A holiday, and this is at a time when Mizukagi is unknown where, Jair thought. There's definitely something strange going on here. He got up from his seat. Thank you, I have to go now. The old man nodded his head, returning the document to Sanin, and he headed for the exit of the village. After moving away to a sufficient distance, Jair summoned a small spy toad and asked him to follow Kurama. Just don't miss anything, Sanin warned. I'm counting on you, he finished, and the spy's toad went on an errand. Kurama decided to make the most of his time. He was training, trying to cope with his dreams and understand why he was dreaming. He was trying to distract himself from the exam and from the thoughts that Naruto was in danger. In order not to be tempted to watch the exam from the outside, Kurama went to the Valley of Completion. He was sitting under a waterfall and meditating. The water was running down his shoulders and back so that he could concentrate on the case. The demon fox remembered all the components of the dream, every last detail. How can I resist this? Thinking that no one could hear him, Kurama talked out loud. If the demon's chakra were with me, I would be able to resist, but I have only a part. The whole of the nine-tailed chakra sealed in Naruto. Zen continued to reflect. On behalf of Jiraiya, a spy toad was watching Kurama. The nine-tails chakra was so hard to believe that the toad almost gave away its location. Kurama heard extraneous sounds, as all animal instincts and heightened senses were preserved. Who's there? He jumped to his feet, still standing under the waterfall, looking around. The toad responded to Sanen's new call and immediately appeared in front of him. Kurama was also left outraged. I hope I imagined it. Biju shrugged and returned to meditation. Everything is very, very bad, Jair, she stammered. Sledge hurried. He really didn't want to hear bad news. He frowned. I do not know how, but Kurama is somehow connected with Kubi, and with the fact that Biju was sealed in Naruto, the spy toad finished. That Kurama continued to meditate under the waterfall, but still the feeling that he was being watched. It gave him no peace. He kept opening one eye to make sure no one was watching him. Biju couldn't get comfortable. He was twisting and turning all the time, as if he was disturbed by a nightmare. And indeed, pictures and dreams flashed before his eyes, and a constant sense of danger did not leave him for a second. Pain went through my whole body like an electric discharge. Kyubi grimaced. His chakra gradually began to envelop him. At that moment, he could no longer hear anything around him. It would seem that Biju achieved what he wanted, to focus on one thing, but to turn into a fox again. It wasn't in his mind. And where did he get so much chakra from? The wind rose, surrounding Kyubi. The chakra took the form of a fox, creating a cover like a jinchurika. He opened his eyes wide. They instantly changed their color to red, and the pupil also became almond-shaped, shaped like animals. All these changes took place in front of Sanin, who was already watching Biju to make sure of the words of the toad himself, and understand to the end what she meant, what to say. That Jair was surprised, not to say anything. Sanin, to put it mildly, fucked up. When he came to his senses, he dared to come out of his hiding place. Kurama immediately noticed Sanin and growled at him. Dira was ready to defend himself from the beast, but it froze in place. Apparently, he also came to his senses and realized who was standing in front of him. Which means the demon's cover is over. Jiraiya. The entire cover of the nine-tailed instantly evaporated. Biju was trying to assess the situation. But no matter how hard he tried, the answer remained one: Sanin would not give him life. Isn't the nine-tail sealed in Naruto? Sanin interrupted Biju's thoughts. Kurama got up, continuing to stand under the waterfall. He had long ago realized that Jiraiya had guessed everything. What will you achieve by beating the answer out of me? Kyubi came out of the water. You already know the answer, don't you? Sanin frowned. That's not exactly how Jiraiya started. In my guesses, you have something to do with Kyubi. Who are you? In this case, it will be hard to believe. The nine-tailed man spread his hands. The toad hermit crossed his arms over his chest. I'll do my best. Just tell me what the hell is wrong with you. The answer is that you are a cushion brother and will not take a ride. You are not even a person. Jiraiya said everything to stop Kurama's attempts to get out and lie. Kurama was surprised by Sanin's awareness. He seemed to have no choice but to tell it like it was, but it was too risky. What should I do in this situation, Akiruzen? He looked at his reflection in the water. Naruto, you and your parents, what the fuck have they turned me into? If I were myself, no, if I were myself, it would have been sealed and locked in another cage. A shame what I think. Yes, that's right, as a true person, I'm trying to save my skin. Kyubi shook his head, dismissing such thoughts. No, it's not. I decided, I chose this path myself. Biju perked up, clenched his hands into fists, and looked at Sanin. QB said how I cut off the chicken. Qualifying round, Sakura was taken aback. Are you kidding me? Why not skip to the stage of everyone? Hayate cleared his throat. Apparently, the second stage was too easy because too many people passed. All this is not for fun, you must agree, it's according to the rules of the exam, explained Raiferi. What's wrong with the number of participants? As Hakagi-sama has already said, there will be a lot of guests, so we are limited in time. The fights should not be delayed. Hayate was silent for a second, waiting for more questions, but apparently everyone understood everything. In that case, the one who doesn't want to take risks or feels bad, you have the right to refuse, but it's better to do it now. Since the qualifying round would begin immediately, someone's hand was raised at that very second. I think I'll go out. It was Yakushi Kabuta, a shinobi, who once helped team number 7. The referee scrolled through the list. Yakushi Kabuta from Kanahi, so he nodded in response. You can go now? Kabuta himself, why? Naruto shouted. Risking my life is not for me. So I'm sorry, Naruto. The guy headed for the exit. Anka also scrolled through the list. I remember him. Last year, he also refused, failed 6 times overall. And what was he thinking? 6 times, Hiruzen was surprised, and at the same time it seemed strange to him. Why would Genin go through 6 times in the first 2 stages, and before the third one, merge everything like that? In addition, it seems that he is the son of the enemy. A survivor of the battle, he was saved by a ninja medic. The examiner Kunaichi finished. Sasuke followed as if with his eyes. Suddenly, the mark left by Arakimaru made itself felt. Sakura noticed Uchiha crouching in pain. Well, there are no more takers. The referee looked at the guys with his eyes. Sasuke-kun, you also need to refuse. Sakura got nervous. That mark hurts, please refuse. Sakura almost roared, begging Uchiha. He grabbed his shoulder, on which there was a mark. He frowned as he looked at Sakura. You won't be able to fight anyway. Not a word about the label. Uchiha hissed through his teeth. It's none of your business, stay out of it. Sasuke was ready for anything for the sake of his so-called revenge, so it was useless to beg him. Calm down, both of you. Now Naruto also intervened in the conversation. Sakura, how many times do you have to repeat the same thing to get it to you? This ridiculous argument infuriated Uzumaki. Sakura, unable to endure such rudeness, did not remain silent. How are you? However, she was immediately interrupted. Sasuke, you'd better not be stubborn. Naruto, although he did not get along with Uchiha, but still the situation is much worse. Get rid of this mark, ask Kakashi-sensei to help. I'm sure he knows how to get rid of this thing. He was absolutely sure of his words and their effect on Uchiha. I said no. He was ready to scream, either from pain or from anger. Hakagi noticed a mess with team number 7. That's what I think. Is it really a label? The old man shifted his gaze to Anka. And Reikimaru, how? He looked at Uchiha again. Hakagi still decided not to interfere and watch the guys. Well, let's get started. The referee's voice rang out. You will fight one-on-one with each other, all in a real battle. He looked around at all the guys. There are exactly 20 participants left, so we will hold 10 duels. The fights will continue until one of you dies, loses consciousness, or gives up. The participants immediately tensed at Hayate's words. He noticed it. If I decide that the winner is clear, then I will stop the fight. He turned his back to the guys, giving some kind of sign to Anka. She immediately ordered something into the earphone. A built-in screen opened in the wall. The names of pairs of fighters will be displayed on the scoreboard before the start of the match, so watch carefully. Turning back to the Genins, he explained to the referee. So, we announced the first pair. Everyone stared at the screen with a shudder, and only a few did not change their face. And now 2 names appeared on the scoreboard. Uchiha Sasuke versus Akata Yora. Sasuke grinned and stepped forward. A shinobi came out with him, whose face was covered with a mask. Kurama was carried headlong through the forest. Jumped from tree to tree. dodged Sanen's blows as best he could. Damn it, stop it. Kyuubi tried to shout to him. Listen to me. But Jiraiya did not listen to him point blank, continuing to attack. Rasengan. In his hand, a kind of clot of chakra formed, rotating with great speed, which he immediately directed at Kurama. Biju intercepted Sanen's hand, which had Rasengan in it, and redirected it in the other direction. He himself, unable to stand on his feet, fell on his back. Jiraiya stopped the technique. He turns towards Kurama, folding the seal at the same time. Kaiten Yanden. The released projectile of flame rushed at Kyuubi, but he did not budge. Kyuubi took the blow, did not dodge. Drizzt was convinced of this unequivocally when the flames dissipated. A deified demon in the guise of a human. All of his skin was burned, blistered somewhere, charred somewhere. Due to his inhuman nature, Kurama is still alive and still breathing. His eyes widened in surprise. However, these are not all the surprises prepared by Biju. He tried to get up. Gently raising himself on his elbows, Kyuubi felt this hellish pain, but he continued to rise through the force. Clenching his teeth, clenching his fists, digging his claws into the skin, he rose. Finally, after going through these unbearable torments, Kurama got up, barely standing on his feet. He smiled triumphantly and looked at Sanen. When he calmed down, Jiraiya was taken aback by the demon's words, by his actions, by his incredible strength. Even being deprived of Chuck. Now you're going to listen to me, Biju insisted. Sanen clenched his fists. I'll listen to you, demon, he said reluctantly, but that doesn't mean I'll believe you. Kurama exhaled. All the burns began to gradually tighten, which Jiraiya, of course, paid attention to. What kind of strength he has. It's just unbelievable. Kurama sat down on the ground, waiting for the same father. Jiraiya followed Biju's example. I do not know how, but that's how you are. It turned out that when Minato tried to seal me in Naruto, he could only seal my chakra, and my body turned into this. He emphasized the last word, while pointing to himself. After that neither Minato was bitten, nor the third one found me with Naruto.